Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Giovanni Hale, and I am a senior at Southern New Hampshire University online. I am studying information system management. My focus is on cybersecurity. And in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing CYB-250, which is cyber defense. If you're about to take this class or just want to know what to expect, then this video is going to be for you. I just completed this course and I want to break it down, what you'll learn and where are the challenges that you're going to run into and how to set yourself up for success in this class. So usually when I start my videos, if this is the first video that you've ever seen of mine, I always start with the grades because it makes it easier for people to see why should they listen to you. As you can see, I actually have 100% in this class. I got all of the full points for this course, so I do think that I can speak to you about this course and give you some insights. So let's talk about what this class is first and what it's all about to set the landscape. So CYB 250 is officially titled Cyber Defense at SNHU. It focuses on the fundamentals of cybersecurity risk management. So you'll learn how organizations identify, how they assess, and how they prioritize risk using formal frameworks. So one of the main tools that you'll use in this class is NIST Risk Management Framework, especially SP 830. So the course is heavy on process understanding rather than on technical work. So you won't be configuring firewalls or writing scripts here. Instead, it's about learning how to think like a cybersecurity professional when it comes to protecting data and assets. So you'll build the skills in risk management, threat modeling, vulnerability analysis, how you create mitigation strategies, and that'll be important a little bit later on. You'll get a chance to see what that's about. These are like foundations in cybersecurity roles, especially in what's called GRC, or governance, risk, and compliance. So let's talk about the weekly breakdown. Most of the classes that I've taken at SNHU have all been broken down into modules 1 through 8. And in the learning modules, you get a start here, which kind of gives you your syllabus and how the class is broken down, assignment information, and then you'll go through your modules. So here's a quick breakdown of what you can expect week by week. So let's start with week 1. Week 1 is going to be your intro to risk management terminology. It's pretty light, but it sets the foundation. In week 1, you'll have what's called a knowledge check. So you'll just figure out, hey, what's going on? Go through some discussion work. In most of the classes, you're going to have discussions. And then you'll have usually projects that you get that are graded during that time. So week 2, you dive into risk management frameworks. Make sure to read the SP 8030. There is a particular reason why you're going to do that, but you won't know that until week 7. But I'm telling you ahead of time, make sure that you read the SP 830. Week 3, just like in week 2, you're starting to get into asset classifications and identifying vulnerabilities. You're not doing this primarily on firewalls and that type of thing. What you are doing is going through the breakdowns and really having deep conversations in your discussions with other students, and you're going through and looking at the vulnerabilities. So let that be a key part of what you're doing. So this week involves like a risk register. Week 4, that is threat identification. So you'll begin tying in like the assets and possible threats. Why this is going to be important, again, is going to speak to week 7 and week 8. So don't get yourself too wrapped around it, but I do think that you should focus in on where that is in your week 4, because that's where you're going to begin tying assets in and starting to think like a risk analyst. And that's the whole point of this, is to get you to start thinking like a risk analyst. Week 5. Week 5 is going to be risk asset and evaluation. So you're going to be given some risk, and then you're going to be told to evaluate those and then provide some data to it. This is where things get real. In my opinion, this is where stuff gets real, and you'll do probability versus impact analysis. So if you're excited about that part, You can put that inside of the chat below if that's your jam. That was really my jam, but I'll tell you where I struggled in that in just a bit. Week 6, you're going to talk about mitigation strategies. That's all mitigation strategies. How do you reduce or transfer risk? And week 7, you start working on like your final project. So week 7 is when you don't have in my opinion, you do not have a discussion post intentionally so that you can practice. And then my instructor, as you can see, Michael, he actually got sick. And in week 7, our grading fell behind. And this was like right before our final project. But he was a great instructor. He came and told us he got sick and that he was catching up on getting all the grades out. So that was a great thing. Week 8 is just your final reflections, and you're going to be doing like what you learned in the class. And usually that's where you go through what's called a playbook. And if you're into cybersecurity and like in the SNHU community, then you know that the playbook has been something that's been running since the beginning of your junior year. You start putting together this playbook and adding things to this playbook. So let's talk about what's hard and what's not. What's hard? For me, the most challenging part was getting used to like the formal language in the NIST documents. Even though I had read them, they are dry and hard to interpret at first. Here's a recommendation that I did. You don't have to use this. I'm not saying that if you're a person who is opposed to using AI to do anything, then don't do this. But if you are a person who is able to input something into AI and then you know the prompts to ask, then you could ask ChatGPT to break down specific sections for you to help you learn it. That helped me I just asked ChatGPT this particular section, can you break this down as if you were trying to explain this to a child? That really worked to help me to understand it. Asset classification and linking vulnerabilities to specific threats, that also takes practice. It's not always obvious what the correct relationship is. So don't beat yourself up on that. What was easier for me is once you understand the frameworks, the formal structure of the frameworks, the structure becomes predictable. So weekly discussions and assignments were all aligned in that. And by the time I got to like week 7, it was fairly easy. By the time I got to the main project, it was easy. And if you take good notes early, like if you're a note taker, you can reuse those later in your work. But I did a couple of things in that, but not a lot. Also, SNHU instructors are very responsive in their courses, so don't be afraid to like ask questions. They want you to understand the methodology. And like I told you, I just called him Dr. G. When I had a question, I would send it. And that's how I found out he was sick, because he wasn't responding like he normally would. And then he came back and was like, I've been ill, and then sent a whole entire notification to the class. So let's talk about tips for success. This is your section 4. Tips for success. My suggestion to you, read NIST SP 800-30. Highlight as you go if you need to, or break it down through ChatGPT or whatever AI that you use to study with. Use that as your study tutor. If you need to understand the prompts to use, leave that in the comments below. I'll be happy to provide some of the prompts that I use to learn some of this. And then if that's something that you guys really want, I can put together a whole entire video on some of the prompts that I use in AI to be able to understand some of these things. Keep a personal risk register. There's a notebook for that. Keep your own. It helps a lot when you're building your final project. Don't skip the discussion forums. They're graded and your classmates bring great perspectives, so don't skip those. Next thing, using the grading rubric. Every assignment is tied to one. So if you match it line by line, you're more likely to get the full credit. The reason why I say that is because people will go through, and I've had people in the class say, I didn't get full credit. The question is, did you apply this to the rubric? Or did you just write what you thought was there? If you tied that, and again, this is something else that you can use AI to assist you with, is to go through and say, here's the rubric, here is my paper. Can you go through to ensure that I'm meeting the rubric? That is not cheating. That is using an AI to go through for a second pair of eyes. So again, if you need help with that, ask me in the section below this, in the comment section, I'll be happy to help you guys. Block out time. That's my last recommendation for this. You will need to set aside at least 4 to 6 hours per week, minimum, to get this done. Your week 7 is going to probably take you that full 6 hours. Depends on how much you've been working on it. Now, final project breakdown. Let me talk about that. The final project is where you pull everything together. If you're listening to this and you're at this point inside of your cybersecurity career, at SNHU, let me say this. You already know that. So you're preset already for a full risk assessment by the time you get to this point. You've been doing it for 5 weeks prior to this. So you know how to identify assets, threats and vulnerabilities, risk analysis, and how you prioritize those risks. You understand mitigation at this point because you spent time doing it. 5 weeks through, you've been doing mitigation and that type of thing. So it sounds like a lot. But if you kept good notes and you follow the weekly lessons, it will flow naturally and you will come out of this on the other end quite stronger than when you came in. This project is great for your portfolio, which is where I put my stuff. And if you guys want to see, I do put my stuff on my website. When I get done with my classwork, I put all of my classwork on my website so that if you do not have your own personal website, you don't need to have one that you pay for. You can have a free one. But I do think that you should have a portfolio of your work. So when people get ready to try to hire you, you have something to show them of what you've been doing. If you're going into GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, or you're going into an analyst role, this is something that they're going to want to see. Great things to make sure you have as part of your portfolio. So my final thoughts. Overall, I really liked CYB-250. It taught me how to think strategically about cybersecurity. I finished the class with an A and felt like I really did earn it. If you stayed engaged, you do the reading, you ask for help, you'll do great in this class. I have no doubt in that. You have a community. You have me, someone who's been sharing their whole journey from when I started at SNHU. If this is the first video that you've seen, I have a whole entire slew of videos. I've been documenting my process since I started at SNHU because I did not see anyone who was doing it that was an actual adult. A lot of people reflected on what it was like to go to SNHU online after they were done. No one was doing it live as they were going through. And as far as I know, I'm still the only person who's doing that. I have not found another video of people who are documenting as they're going through classes. You have a community of people. This may be a large community. It's under 1,000 people, but it is definitely a community of people that work and go through and will be happy to help you with learning. Thank you for watching this video. If it's helped you, drop a comment below and let me know. You can subscribe if you want more like SNHU course reviews or like cybersecurity tips that I can give you. Stay sharp, protect your data, and I'll see you in the next video.